This week on ANN, we are celebrating 500 consecutive episodes of ANN Video.
We look back at how ANN Video started and where we hope it will go.
And we sit down with past and current anchors to hear what ANN has meant to them and the Global Adventist Church.
These stories and more coming up.
Thank you so much for joining us this week.
This week, we have a very special episode of ANN Video. We are celebrating our 500th consecutive episode.
That means for almost 10 years, we have brought you news from around the worldwide Seventh-day Adventist Church every weekend.
We will continue our regular programming next week, sharing important stories from around the world church. And you can always visit adventist.news for daily articles and news.
But this week, we wanted to take a look back at the past episodes and share our dreams for the future.
ANN is a great resource for our church.
It's been a bright light, in the middle of all of these things going on around us.
ANN has been important to the church because it shows the diversity of the Adventist World Church.
Having a program like ANN is important because it contributes to feeling connected to a global Seventh-day Adventist Church community.
ANN helps pull or keep this really big denomination together. We have all these millions of people all across the world, and it's one of those things that helps keep the Seventh-day Adventist Church like a family.
I was one Sabbath in Nairobi, Kenya, attending the New Life Seventh-day Adventist Church. I don't speak Swahili, but we had a hymnal, and the hymns were written in lettering that I could read. And as we all sang together, I felt a tremendous fellowship and kinship with all of the people there. Now, everyone can't go and travel to various Adventist churches around the world, but the feeling of family and of unity that I had that day in Nairobi, Kenya, so long ago, is the same feeling I get watching ANN and seeing the news about the church all around the world. It's a unifying and important factor in bringing and keeping Seventh-day Adventists together as we are united in mission.
Well, I feel proud, that you guys have achieved this. I don't think we guessed that it would carry on so long. To do 500 shows is something, but to do it consecutively, that's almost 10 years of consecutive programming. That is really a milestone. It all started in 2011 when I came to the General Conference, the Seventh-day Adventist headquarters, and worked in the communication department as the associate director. So almost as soon as I arrived, I was told there is this show we want to start called ANN, Adventist News Network, a video show every week. It was the brainchild of Pastor Williams Costa.
Well, my name is Williams Costa Jr. I am the GC Communication Director, and I work directly as executive producer of ANN. And it has been my privilege to be involved with this project since the beginning. ANN traditionally was written information, and we live in a visual world, and it was imperative 500 episodes ago to start on this. So we didn't have the budget, we didn't have the people, we didn't have the infrastructure, but by faith we started, and praise the Lord, we accomplished all of these contents through the years.
We had to start something and then show people, and then it got them enthusiastic, and then they started working with us. But initially it was quite tough to fill that half an hour. But it all started downstairs in the building.
It used to take us until like midnight to edit ANN because we would be in the basement of the General Conference building, and we'd have hard drives that we would have to run up to the third floor every time somebody was finished with something. So we'd record the anchors and run it up to the third floor. Then we'd record social media and run it up to the third floor. And we had an editor, Philly, who actually just left in January of 2020, and Philly was the one who started with us, and he kept working with us. And then Hafa, who came along, and he was one of our editors, and Milan, who actually ended up being an anchor, but she wrote the script as well and helped me produce it when she was working with us. And Liz started writing the scripts. She was our first scriptwriter. Jilmar and just the crew that we had, Brandon, who worked with us full time. Recently, Adalto has been editing, and Taizi has been helping me with editing and translation, and also Corel is now our new editor, and he's been learning and editing and doing a fabulous job. So there's just so many people who go into making A&M possible. It just feels like you see the two anchors, and you have somebody who writes the script, you have someone who edits it. You know, Emily, who's actually producing this piece, she produces stuff for me all the time and edits pictures, and there's no part of A&M that could be done if it weren't for probably 10 people behind the scenes doing the little things that you don't see that are actually much bigger than you can imagine. They make A&M the great show it is now.
People always ask, you know, how can the church have a news program? But if you think of it, I mean, there are communication teams in every single country. So it's almost like we have a CNN already all over the world. We don't have their budgets, but we have those people. And after a few months, stories started coming in, videos and photos, and it started getting much easier.
In the early days, especially when I first came to the communication department, the task and the challenge of getting content was much greater than it is now. People weren't always as forthcoming, they weren't as responsive. It was difficult sometimes to get answers from people, but persistence, a lot of phone calls at odd hours of the morning and evening, and not a little prayer was what was useful in bringing that information to us for the program and bringing it together.
So I had my list of contacts for every division, and sometimes I had contacts for specific unions and conferences within the divisions. So having that network within the Adventist network was just so crucial. Couldn't have done my job without the help of my international partners. Overall, it was really great having this really broad network with people who are all committed to telling the stories of the church and the church's members. So it was a really great experience.
I'm David Trim. I'm Director of the Office of Archives, Statistics and Research for the General Conference, and I am the main presenter of This Week in Adventist History. This Week in Adventist History tells stories. And it usually illustrates them with photographs that very often nobody has seen before. So it tells stories, and I think that's important. And I think that's one reason that, you know, the feedback we get suggests people like it. And as many Adventists could recite with me a famous statement by Ellen White, we have nothing to fear for the future except, as we shall forget, the way the Lord has led us and his teaching in our past history. The truth is, Adventists very often do forget. We ignore those words in practice. So having the segment helps us to honor that counsel. It enables us to remember and to not forget the way the Lord has led us in his teaching.
Coming up, we continue to look back at the past 500 episodes of A&M.
We'll be right back after the break.
You start with Adam and Eve, the first heroes of the Bible. Noah, Joseph, Moses, Jesus, Mary, and John are just some of the 12 heroes waiting to challenge you. Effects are power-ups that help you on your journey. The Daniel effect, for example, reveals the Bible verse where the correct answer is found. So download the game and start practicing today.
Welcome back.
It's hard to believe that ANN Video has been broadcasting news from around the worldwide Adventist Church for more than 10 years.
In that time, ANN Video has expanded into ANN Video in Spanish and ANN International.
Let's see more ways ANN Video will continue to grow.
My name is Erica Jones, and I was involved with ANN as one of the anchors for almost 8 years. I think it was my first job working at the General Conference right out of college, and it's a big building and there's a lot of people. And so when they asked me if I'd like to come in and anchor for ANN, I just thought it was a great opportunity to meet some new people. And it was one of the best decisions I ever made because I made great friends, and the ANN team really became a family at work.
Aside from being able to tell the story of what our church is doing across the world, being one of the longest tenured co-anchors, I really enjoyed working with past and present ANN staff. So that's another reason why I keep doing it.
What a wonderful experience. The camaraderie of working with these talented people. Many of those who worked in the building I didn't know personally, but I had the chance to get to know them. We all kind of contributed to ANN. So I had stories from Hope Channel, other people had stories from their departments or their fields of work, and we all kind of poured those stories into ANN, and ANN continued to grow and become this amazing program that it is today.
This type of work, or if you want to call it project, I really enjoy doing it. Being in front of the camera and just kind of putting out the news that's out there, and the interacting that I get with other anchors and just the team. It's just something that I really, really enjoy.
When I was first approached to do ANN, I thought, wow, this is something I've never done in my life, being in front of a teleprompter and reporting the news. But it became more of learning how to be a storyteller and using different emotions and, allowing God to use me to reach people all over the world. And what other great way than to be part of the news for the Adventist Church. So it's been great. I'm thankful.
It was a great opportunity to be a part of something that I'd already seen was a powerful aspect of what our church does. So I really appreciated ANN sharing the news from a global perspective. That always meant a lot to me.
I honestly don't get out and do a lot of missionary work. I get a little shy when it comes to talking to strangers or even to friends. I do tell them that I am Seventh-day Adventist, but it's hard to sometimes insert my beliefs. This is, to me, I feel the one way that I can speak God's word and pray every time we do it, that it will land in someone's ears that really needs it at that time.
Sometimes the secular news can be really a bit discouraging and dragging, and there are just a lot of topics that people feel that there's no hope. But with ANN, it gives you hope. It shows you that we are proactive. We have a lot going on around the world, and it's good for people to see.
Watching traditional news programs may leave one depressed sometimes because of the seemingly overwhelming negative events that are being highlighted in our world. So I value ANN because, in contrast to the news that's being relayed, is often hopeful and encouraging. It's not that the coverage doesn't speak of sad happenings, but those are usually balanced with positivity. At times, showing how our church is responding and how we can see God working through those storms.
I think ANN is important for the church because it highlights the main news for what's going on around the world and keep us up to date on the best things and the challenges that the church is facing. And it's exciting to see how the church is moving forward, and ANN does that. It gives us the updates and the messages and the news that that we need to continue to move forward.
My belief is that ANN is an important part of the church's international program because it's able to show for a very wide audience the great diversity of the Adventist Church, to show that despite the fact that the Adventist Church began here in North America, that the Adventist message is relevant and is making a difference in every part of the world. And the part that's most impactful to me, and I believe a lot of the people that I've spoken to, is the reports of stories of how your church is making a difference in its community. To see that people of every background, of every life experience are impacting their world in relevant ways that are meaningful and making a positive change in the world.
The world church is a big family, and no family survives without communication. No, small families, big families, they need to communicate. For this reason, ANN is the window, is the door for us to talk with people from other families inside the church, around the world. So to me, ANN is the glue that unites and connects everybody with the same purpose and the same vision.
When we're able to know what's going on in other areas of the world, we can better reach out to other people who are hurting, and let our members know what's going on with other Seventh-day Adventist brothers and sisters.
Well, I think ANN is such an important element to the global church because the Seventh-day Adventist Church is exactly that, global. So it's imperative that we know how our brothers and sisters around the world are doing, and to know that the gospel isn't only spreading around us, but across the globe. I loved being a part of ANN.
And so being able to hear the news and the going-ons about different parts of the world in the Adventist Church family, I feel is important, so that we understand we're all in this together, and it kind of brings us together, if you will. And if someone needs something or is in need of some sort of help, we as a family can reach out to them, or at least continue praying for them. So this type of news for the church, I feel, is very, very important, so that we can stay communicating and stay together.
All the individuals I was working with came to the program from different areas of ministry, different areas of church work, but we all believed in what was happening at ANN, which is we believed in what our church was doing globally, believed in the mission of the church, and believed in telling that story.
It shows the amazing family and community that we have within the Seventh-day Adventist Church. And a lot of the people that I worked with show diversity not only in skin color, but also in experience and in background, and in faith. And so it was wonderful to work with all of these people, and I am proud and pleased to have been part of ANN.
I feel the reason it's so important for the church to continue doing programs such as ANN is because sometimes the best way to reach somebody who hasn't been introduced to the Seventh-day Adventist Church is in a very casual way, in a way about, hey, listen, look at what this church across the world is doing to serve others, instead of them looking for a sermon online, which they might not do. So this is one way to reach people that may be a little bit harder to reach.
The church is based on volunteerism. And if we all donate our time and efforts to advance the sharing of the gospel, that's what the church is all about, giving our time and helping others.
So many Adventists are doing amazing things around the world. So if you just see what the local churches or what conferences or unions or divisions are doing to minister to people, then you can be inspired to do something similar in your community.
I think the best thing about ANN was and is the fact that people can see stories. Oh, that's a new way to do an evangelistic project. And then they get that idea and they try it in their region of the world. They might change it a little bit, contextualize it, but it's an idea-giving platform.
Yeah, so one of my most memorable experiences and stories working for ANN had to do with Impact Hope, which serves refugees in Rwanda. We met the husband and wife founders of Impact Hope at an ASI convention. And they told us about what they did and how at this one specific refugee camp, it just so happens that a lot of the youth are Adventist children and youth. So that was just a really meaningful interaction. So we learned more and got some information about the work that they were doing and decided to feature it on ANN.
We featured a ministry called Impact Hope.
The ministry aims to provide education to some of the 100,000 Congolese refugees who fled to Rwanda after many of the perpetrators of the Rwanda genocide escaped to the Democratic Republic of Congo and continued their heinous crimes.
Impact Hope is providing opportunities to give top students quality education throughout their high school years.
And they thanked us for featuring them on their program. For one, just because of the exposure, but for two, apparently someone had seen the feature on ANN and was so moved to contact them to give them a donation, purely because of what they saw on ANN. And that was really meaningful for me because you get messages from viewers and, messages of appreciation. Those are all great, but for someone to be so moved by our work of presenting the story of Impact Hope to make a donation like that was just incredible. And I hadn't experienced anything like that. So that was definitely one of my most meaningful memories working with ANN. To have an official voice of the denomination to pull together stories, and it's going to be reliable, it'll be legitimate, and it will be kind of like a one-stop shop. So you don't have to question the quality, you don't have to question the legitimacy. You can get a good sense into what the denomination is doing across the globe, and that's an invaluable resource that doesn't exist anywhere else.
We hope to expand ANN. I would love to do daily 5-minute programs of ANN. We've started ANN in Depth, which is a discussion program, kind of expand into like a magazine program and do documentaries. There's so many dreams that we all have for ANN. It's just a matter of getting it started. And, at the end of the day, ANN, both the website, the stories, the video news, we're the voice through the communication department, we're the voice of the church. And our job is to bring the news of the global church to the world. I think the Adventist Church is doing really cool things in the world. I think we're doing amazing things. I think we're reaching our communities and we're touching lives. And I hope that ANN can find really clever and exciting ways to share that with our world church and with people who don't know much about the Adventist faith.
We hope you have enjoyed taking this journey with us and remembering the past 10 years. Thank you for your support and for watching each week.
We also want to thank each person, anchors, writers, editors, producers, production assistants, and technical support who have worked so hard to bring this program to our members each week.
We look forward to continuing to bring you news from the Adventist Church for many years in the future, and we pray God's richest blessing on each of you.
Coming up, David Trim is here for a look at this week in Adventist history.
Why is there evil in the world? Are Christians hypocrites? Is the Bible a fairy tale? Does Jesus love everyone? Church doesn't feel relevant to my life. Is God even real? You have questions? Let's talk about it. I Believe Bible.
And finally, for today's episode, let's turn to David Trim for a look at Adventist history.
This week, we hear about an Adventist hospital in Myanmar and Adventist baptism in China.
This week in Adventist history, we focus on mission in Asia. On March 1st, 1948, Rangoon Adventist Hospital was opened in the capital city of what was then called Burma. The Southern Asia Division had targeted the creation of a hospital in what is now called Myanmar. And in July 1947, with funds from the 13th Sabbath mission offering, A suitable property was purchased in the city that today is called Yangon. This property was remodeled, modern hospital equipment was imported, and a 60-bed hospital was opened. Rangoon Adventist Hospital was operated by the Burma Union Mission until the government nationalized the hospital in 1965. The church in Myanmar today faces many challenges. Please pray for our believers there. But also remember, 13th Sabbath offerings make a difference. Please give generously at the end of this month to support Adventist mission around the world. Now, 46 years before Rangoon Adventist Hospital opened, on March 1st, 1902, the first Adventist baptism in China took place, in what was then the British colony of Hong Kong. Pastor Jacob Anderson baptized 7 people, but in this case, he was reaping where another had sown, namely Abram LaRue, who you see here. Now, LaRue had arrived in Hong Kong in May 1888, thus starting his missionary career aged 66, a wonderful example of commitment. For the next 14 years, church yearbooks and statistical reports each year reported one solitary worker in the whole of the Far East, LaRue, who was a self-supporting lay missionary and therefore baptized nobody as he awaited the arrival of a pastor. Finally, in February 1902, a party of missionaries landed in Hong Kong. Jacob Anderson, his wife Emma, their 4-year-old son Stanley, and Emma's sister Ida Thompson, a nurse. You see the family here in a photo taken with Jacob's brother and sister-in-law before the missionaries left America. Now, Anderson found that LaRue had 7 people ready to join the church, and he baptized them all 119 years ago this week. The baptism was commemorated in this wonderful historic photograph. As you see, all the new Adventists were British, sailors and Marines from Royal Navy ships, but outreach to Chinese people soon followed. Abram LaRue died the following year and is buried in Hong Kong. He is an outstanding example of what dedicated lay people can do, a model of total member involvement. That was this week in Adventist history.
Thanks for watching ANN. Join us next week for more news from the headquarters of the Seventh-day Adventist Church.
We'd love to hear from you. Send us your feedback and tell us how your church is making a difference in its community.
Be sure to capture plenty of video footage and photos, then write up a summary of the event's important details, and feel free to send full video reports as well.
You can reach us by sending an email to annvideo11@gmail.com.
Before we say goodbye, here's some good news from the book of Micah, chapter 7, verse 18.
The passage says, "Who is a God like you, who pardons sin and forgives the transgression of the remnant of his inheritance? You do not stay angry forever, but delight to show mercy."
That's our program for this week. And remember, you can always visit Adventist.news for daily news and videos. Until next time, God bless.
Take care.